Hello. Before we get started, I wanted to say thank you all so much for y'all's patience. This episode took a lot longer to get out than intended, but I got some good news. I got my first ever sponsor for this show, Pop Soap, a Houston-based handmade skincare brand that specializes in all-natural vegan soaps and body products made in small, various uniquely themed batches. I use their soaps and other products exclusively to clean my body. As someone with both sensitive skin and ink on my body, their products don't cause my skin to irritate and also help with dryness, irritation, and dull skin. And they do this all without using any of the usual harsh chemicals that are found in other store bought name brands that I, in fact, would get irritated with. Lastly, if you go to their website, popsoapshop.com, and use my code Animaze15, you can save 15% off your order. Come join the soap revolution. Now, on to the episode. Welcome to Animazing, the stories of Kevin Seymour. I am your host, Aramis, and this is episode 14 of the show, interview with the phenomenal Lia Sargent. Now, Lia has been both an actor, a director, a writer, all sorts of things on this journey of stories of Kevin Seymour. Now, if she could give us a little introduction of herself, take it away, Lia.
Hello, Aramis. Hello, all. Um, I never really know what to say about myself other than the part that some people know but don't always think about, that I'm third generation in the industry of filmmaking and theater. So it's in my blood. Kind of hard to get that out of my system, even if I wanted to. And I couldn't be more delighted to do this because Kevin Seymour, well, I wouldn't have been involved in anime probably at all if it weren't for Kevin. So this means a lot to me as well. And I think that pretty much says it until we get going. What do you think, Aramis?
That is a perfect summation. In that case, I think I always like starting at the beginning, if not at the beginning, the most impactful beginning. So I'll
Hmm.
ask you, Leah, if you cannot remember the first time you ever worked with Kevin, what was the first big impactful thing you worked with Kevin?
Well, I think of impactful more often than not as being fun, and laughter, a lot of laughter, and just joy of doing the work. And as much as I had done other things prior to this, the character that always stands out, that I can't necessarily speak highly about the series particularly, other than a lot of characters and a lot of work, was El Hazard with my character Nanami. And the reason why is because I was had so much fun challenged by her fast, rapid fire speech, as well as just the challenge of all the dynamics that she went through in the different situations. And the humor came from Kevin's writing, from Joe Ramersa as the engineer, Kevin directing, and my being in that refrigerator booth, which I'm sure you've mentioned with other people that we were, stuck in and so forth. But I just love the whole focus of it all. And then opening and cracking open that door to hear them laughing because of something, that character brought a lot of joy to all of us and involved. And so that's reason why when I think in terms of Kevin in that regard, something that I will never forget was the part of Nanami, even though it kind of rolled over after Chun-Li, it kind of like crossed over into Chun-Li series as well. Then the Chun-Li episodes and the stuff I did on as Chun-Li was just the complete opposite, and again challenging because of it, but also so much fun, particularly the fight sequences. And that's where we had a lot of fun as well. So those two characters stand out to me as the beginning of the most challenging and the most fun with Kevin particularly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, those, I know El Hazard. I was actually corrected at a show. I kept on calling it El Hazard.
Yes.
It was Michael Sorich corrected me, and then he also
Hmm.
I need to watch it at this point. Like, it's on the list. There's a lot on the list, but
Sure, there's a lot.
but the comedy in it. I think the first clip I saw was him playing his character's drunk teacher, being depressed that
Yes,
he's out of liquor.
he was brilliant. Yeah, Sorge was brilliant. Yeah, gotta see it. Gotta see it.
Oh yeah, no, I think I own 2 of them. I own the Magnificent World set, so I'm still
Yeah,
missing the other. I'm still missing the other half. I think there were
right.
4. You were not just an actor for Kevin. You also directed a bunch of stuff.
hmm
What stories do you have?
He wanted me to direct in the first place was just fantastic. But I don't know if anyone's ever mentioned his color-coded scripts. He,
Ah,
have you heard about that?
I figured it out on my own actually. No, good point bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, he was right up my alley. That's why the two of us got along so well and we were in sync, because that's something that I would have done in his shoes.
Mm,
and it really resonated well with me as a writer, as a director, as an actor, because he would literally give each character a color, and he had all of these color pens that he would highlight every single script, working script, of course,
yeah,
the working script of the engineer script, my script, as a
his
director,
script, all the
and then
scripts.
all the scripts that would go writer, engineer, director. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, actor, engineer, director. So they were all given the color coded script. So that way, getting into the booth as an actor, you could literally look for your part right away without any having to thumb through the pages, even though we were, say, page 67, loop 20 or whatever it might have been. You felt like those characters were really popping out at you, and as an engineer and a director, you immediately went to it. It was just, I don't know, it was, to me, it just made all the sense in the world, and it really was easy to work with. So that's something that I cherish in Kevin. I don't think there's anybody else who really does that very much, if at all. Yeah, he was less factory of whipping out everything really fast than just, or compared to being able to really be part of the way his brain works.
it,
And yeah, it was a warmer environment that way,
it felt like it. I learned about the color coding from somebody, but then I
mhm.
think it goes all the way back to his days at Books Nippon.
Very possible. Yeah,
Very
I don't know
popular.
anything about that though,
Yeah.
but I do know that
Yeah, I got
that
people
he worked there.
who can yeah, no, I have
Yeah,
contacts now where I'm trying to get that part of the story worked
yeah.
on.
He had a
Those sort
collection of books that were phenomenal,
oh
phenomenal books. Yeah.
books, figures. Apparently his house was like a museum from
Very
what I've
much so.
heard. But no,
Yeah.
I've gotten to look at some of the scripts from there's a website called Worth Point which shows estate sales and has samplings of each one, and I love said it's all color coded. Mind you, I'm looking at the director's scripts because they were Kevin's, and it's
hmm
fascinating all the notes, potential casting choices, overall just even like I think the one I like looking at the most recently was Catnap's script because it would have notes on how to pronounce names and why the pronunciation is the way that it is.
Right, right.
And
Are you, and then so you're also familiar with the visual language of anime and how he was very up on, being respectful of that.
oh,
In Yeah,
from what I
you know about that, right?
yeah,
The visual language. Yeah, yeah.
ever since the beginning, he's very much purist. He wanted to
Mm-hmm.
that would be the word that I would. And he's been like that since day one. I have
Yeah.
stories that will be for later episodes where he would clash with other writers because they would say, oh well, this in a Japanese sense it makes sense, but when it's spoken in English it sounds weird. But he
hmm
wanted it to stay pure.
Yes.
Wanted it to
And that's why he made sure that we always previewed the Japanese version before recording, so that we would hear their intent. We would get their feeling. We would get their intonations. And it wasn't that we were doing it intonation that would be a Japanese intonation as far as the language goes, but we would get their feeling. We would listen to where they were coming from emotionally. And I would go into other studios where they wouldn't let me hear the Japanese. And they would say, well, no, you don't need to hear the Japanese. We just want an American version of this. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to stay true to the original intent. I mean, you know, you just, if, why even do it if not, you know? And that's what I loved about Kevin, is he always made sure that we respected the original Japanese.
The art, his love for the art form. I don't think we'll see, like, you might find one or two directors in the current industry that do have that love, but the combination of that, the attention to detail, and just the love of the game. He loved. He was probably he was a primordial fan, and being being where he was at, I think that made his work, you know, that much better. It left a fingerprint on each piece that he touched. And
Very much so. Very much so.
Dude, like he'd switch it up sometimes. I've even heard where he wouldn't allow, like, for a big scene, he wouldn't allow it to be watched ahead of time. He would make them read it because it was enough of a, you know, like, it would be like a major death scene or something like that, and he wanted that shock in there. This is for much later stuff, but I'm assuming it would be.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he stayed very consistent from what I've read. Of course, every artist gets better as they keep going, but
no, but I think you're talking about the integrity. I don't think he swayed at all throughout his whole career. Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of integrity for the work. Yeah.
What other stories would you think on the subject of Kevin?
Well, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about his acting in anime. You know, he didn't do a lot of roles, but when he did do some, they were priceless and diverse. He had a vocal talent that was, a lot of people don't credit him with that. When I was directing, I believe it was Perfect Blue, but I'm not going to know. I believe the character was probably just nervous guy or something like that. But if you happen to know what I'm talking about, where he was chased by Mimania, or somebody, he thought he was.
Sounds like Kevin.
Yeah.
It sounds.
And he was trying to run with. He's getting his keys out of his pocket, and he's going to the apartment door, and then he's trying to get the keys in the door, and he's just so frantic that the keys are like flustered, and he can't open the door in time, just like anybody would in a thriller movie, you know, right? And the keys and all that. And he played that. He came in, and on one take, he did it beautifully, you know. So I remember that just being spot on, you know. And then he would do something else. He'd come in, and his voice was just like baritone all of a sudden, you know. So he went from a frantic, high pitchy kind of guy, you know, in sync, just perfect emotion, and then he would do some baritone. I don't even know what it was, you know. I just remember him coming in and doing something that was vocally complete opposite. And that's where a lot of people don't talk about him doing that kind of stuff, because he didn't credit himself as Kevin Seymour playing that voice. Never did. And I don't know what names he used as an actor versus a writer versus a director. He would always have all these different Jenny Hanover and all kinds of other names. Do you know all of them?
Do
you have those names?
I do have a chunk of them. I have a chunk of them memorized, his favorites. Of course, there's a few one-offs that he used. But like Quint Lancaster was always one of his go-tos for directing.
Yes.
Duggery Grant, he usually used for any leads. Of course, Jenny Hanover, I think he used for both directing and acting. I know there's one more. Michael Porter. He liked using Michael Porter for like minor roles, like, oh, this ferryman gets pushed over. It would also fill in the credits, like Ghost in the Shell. He used 3 pseudonyms. Yeah, and other shows.
I love it.
And then
I know, just so wonderful that way.
And one more I'll throw in there, because I think, and this is something I've noticed talking to, the love of either theater or the love of, you know, music. Kevin was an avid music lover to the point where oh
my good, are you kidding me? Aramis, he called me up one time and he goes, Lia, I'm giving you a CD. And I said, okay. And he goes, it's Maroon 5. And I went, okay. And you know, they were nobody then, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I listened to that and I went, oh, this is cool, right? He goes, right? They're going to be really big. And he did that all the time, Aramis. All the time.
It's insane. Like, just over the past week, I have a playlist that I made of his musical recommendations from his website. And I kid you not, half of those are used as music background for TikTok reels, Instagram reels. And I'm like, his love, and like, it wasn't just his love of niche mixes. He'll be like, well, you need to. And it was like a song from Perfect Blue or Serial Experiments Lain, but it had to be this specific version. You know, it goes back to.
No, he's very special that way, and so intuitive.
Oh, and his singing
And
is phenomenal too. Like
yeah, right,
oh yeah,
right,
I'm trying to. I know I have his band's only vinyl record, which
mm-hmm.
which I use a sample of that for the opening of the show. But
Right.
I know there's I think Jonathan Fawn has it, but it's a clip of him singing Goldfinger, which I will get up there.
I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that.
Oh
That
yeah,
sounds great.
oh yeah, no, and he sung it perfectly.
Of course he did. He
So,
was
but
impeccable ear.
oh no,
Yeah.
and no, as you said, his character work. I think the only one people would know like off the bat more naturally would be like Castle Cagliostro as the inspector. But
Oh, and I don't know that. I'm not familiar. I'm sorry.
one of the secondary characters, like I will know
Hmm.
whenever he plays like a one-off character, Nervous Man, Suicide
Right.
Bomber,
Right.
Garbage Man B,
Right. Right. Right.
you know,
Right.
it's there, but I think some of his best work as a voiceover was like some of the either repeat gag characters, like
Hmm.
the old crotchety men from Bebop.
Yes. Yes, and that's one of the ones too where his voice very different and
Well,
stuff,
he
and
plays
that's what
two
I
out of
love.
the three men, and you don't
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
it's both of
You
him.
don't realize it. Exactly. Exactly. I love that.
But
That's
I
so
think
cool.
I think his best, and this is I haven't seen all of it, but I think the best I've heard out of him, he played a villain, Dodo or something. It was from
Okay.
Catnapped, and
Oh, okay.
it was
Okay.
this like lackey character for Mary Elizabeth McGlynn's Princess Booberina, who was
Hmm.
like, think of King Midas mixed with like spoiled princess. And so
I
you had
love
it was just Kevin just maniacally laughing and just
it. Right.
unhinged, and I'm like,
Yes, yes. And oh my God, see, that was the thing that was so great to see him or hear of him doing anything like that
mm,
brings such joy to so many people because they saw him as so timid, so shy, so introverted,
yeah,
such a recluse. His museum house
yeah,
was not very many people went there and visited there, because he really wanted to have his own safe space,
yeah.
So when you hear him do work like that, it's brilliant. It's
Oh,
brilliant.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also his care, Aramis, his care for those he loved and he held close. I got a real sense of it when I was invited to go to my first convention as a guest.
mm,
And the producers of El Hazard, I think it was the Japanese producers,
yeah,
or maybe it was just Yutaka. Maybe it was Yutaka who then said, we'd like to have you as a guest. Well, Kevin was concerned for my well-being because he's the type that people coming at him, he's not comfortable with. I didn't care.
yeah,
I grew up with, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
he said, Leah, no, he said, some of these fans, Leah, you have to be careful. And I went, what do I have to be careful of, And I think it was just that coming at me or attention or just riddling me with a bunch of, drilling me with a bunch of questions, those kinds of things. He's uncomfortable with that. But he wanted to make sure I was safe. And he was there to protect me. And it was very sweet. It was very endearing. And I will never forget that about him as well. He also, we were called the Charlie's Angels. Did you know about that
I did.
expression?
I did not know about that.
Okay, that's
Pray tell.
myself and Bridget and Mary Elizabeth. We were Kevin's Angels. Sorry, not Charlie's. Kevin's
Kevin's
Angels. So
Angels.
that's what we were called. So, he had the three director, writer, actors,
Yeah.
casting and everything. He had it in the three of us, and he treated us with kid gloves. He really appreciated the three of us equally. It was really nice. Yeah, Kevin's Angels.
Yeah, that one is new, but that makes a lot of sense. I think
Yeah.
y'all were the three most like common directors I saw besides Kevin was y'all three. So
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
incredible to hear. And his
Yeah.
love and care for, he truly cared.
He
Inside the
did.
booth, outside the booth.
He just didn't care for him. He didn't care about himself. That's the problem. That's what you know what I mean. He
Yeah,
would have. Yeah. He just
probably
didn't take good care of himself.
that's
So
what I've heard, and that's
yeah,
sad to think about.
it is sad. Too
Um,
young. Too young.
too young.
Too
But
young.
he was, at the end of it all, he was surrounded by, I've seen pictures of the memorial service. There were a lot of people that showed up and
Mm-hmm.
were there to honor him. And I think that, shows the impact that he made on, not just the industry, but people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is more so about, is people. How many people did he touch throughout his career that really made an impact on them? And I
A
think,
lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if people weren't aware of the words he said about them, and the appreciation he had for them. They just went in, came in, did a job, and left,
yeah,
And he may have said something to them, but rarely. I think it was too difficult for him to
yeah.
say anything.
It's still nice to know that, because he had, they left, he stayed, and he had
Yeah.
to keep working. But the fact that he held a lot of these people to such high regard or just cared about them, it shows, especially,
Mm-hmm.
when brings them back for multiple projects. I've heard he likes using, he likes people, he likes using people that he likes using very much.
Yeah.
He's going to use
Yeah.
the same people again and again and again if he can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you,
Well,
with
he
some
saw the
exceptions.
talent. He respected their craft, and
Yeah.
also their as people. He enjoyed their work in the booth. They did it with a lightness and a joy, or they were just focused, very focused, get the job done and get the hell out of there, which
Yeah.
was fine too. There's those characters that
There
do
are.
that.
But most
Yeah.
people I've met, it was the former. It was, they
Hmm.
may have only worked on one or two projects with Kevin or with Joe or like at Animaze, but it was like, oh my god, you're doing this. That's amazing. That level of
Hmm.
energy. It's like, wow. Like
Hmm.
the fact,
His casting ability, Aramis. I'm a good casting director. I really am. I went into other areas of casting
yeah,
things, just not just anime. But he was quite phenomenal because there were times when he would cast somebody, including me, mind you, in Cowboy Bebop, because
yeah,
that would not be normally. I would not normally be casting that part. But he knew that those people that could handle a role that you wouldn't necessarily see them as doing it to really 100% would get the role down,
oh,
and
yeah,
he knew that. So he did have a particular kind of intuitive, extra intuitive, little psychic, a little special. He was very spiritual that way, and he just had that sensibility that went beyond your business, the business of the job.
oh.
And that's what was special about him too. A lot of people didn't realize that.
I think with my favorite being, something like Code Geass being probably one of the biggest casts he ever worked on, being,
Hmm.
50 episodes, dozens upon
Hmm.
dozens
Hmm.
of characters, and it wasn't like, older stuff where you'd have the same actor playing 3, 4 characters. It was
Hmm.
maybe they play one or two characters in the
Hmm.
set, and just I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. That series, casting alone made me like, wait a minute, this isn't. It kind of got down that rabbit hole, and then
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
hearing, with that one, oh, well, this person auditioned for this role, but Kevin put them here, and they
Hmm.
they they
Hmm.
exemplified it. They made it their own while
Hmm.
keeping true to the original as Kevin would have,
Right.
wanted, but it's still their own. Like, it's distinct enough to be their own. It's not just
Right.
a tone match. It's not just it is their own character. And I think that is something that, as I said, we don't see it as much anymore. And
No, no. And I've been told that in general, that it's so interesting because here we are, where anime just completely ballooned out, just
yeah,
it just exploded, right?
it,
Prior to that, it was like, okay, this is really cool, and this is really fun,
yeah,
and let's do the best we can and get those characters and actors who are skilled in craft and so forth. And that's where those are the people are looking at that going, now that is cool. Where as you look at some of the stuff, the more current stuff today, it feels, I call it factory made, where they
mm,
bring them in and they drill out all these loops
yeah,
and get these actors in here who've been doing it a lot. And that can be sometimes a problem because they're on autopilot,
yeah,
right? And their heart and soul is not into it. We had the luxury at the time we had to drill those loops out. We had to get those um those characters done. But at the same time, we had a little more luxury to not do it so quickly and to also not start getting complacent. And I think that that's the unfortunate thing of what's happening today, and that's why there's a difference.
I could also make the distinction as well that back think of it. You come from film and theater. Every director, if you were to go work with somebody like who's somebody I can throw at the wall, like Tarantino versus Scorsese, completely different directing styles. But that also would help actors. They'd have to change it up. They wouldn't be on autopilot because you walk in, you're gonna get a different director. And I think with exception to some of the old guard that are still directing, they go in, as you said, it's going to be a very almost like cookie cutter director almost. But that's also not entirely their fault.
No.
From what I've heard.
No, you can't blame anybody.
You
It's
can't.
just
It's how the industry is, like one of the things I don't like that I think it was lost to time was nowadays if you're going to record, you once the other person's dialogue ends, then you can speak. Even if in the Japanese there's a bit of overlap, they do that. They don't record the overlapping audio together just in case they have to replace that actor. They make it so it's a drag and drop, which we've seen in the industry. And I'm like, I love the old style wallas, how they were done. Mind you, now everything's recorded separately and then mixed in post. But I think it'd be interesting if somebody actually did that, brought back some of the older techniques. I think it would bring for a much more fun, almost Kevin-like experience doing it the old way.
Right. Yeah. If you really want to honor Kevin, if you really want to honor him, that would be something to do for sure.
Now I'm trying to track down a good pickle jar. I wanna try practicing the old how they did the old spacesuits. Not
the pickle jar usually is the one. It is the old-fashioned pickle jar with the wide mouth and it's big, right?
It's the big one, and there'd be different sizes.
Yeah, but sometimes we also did. Maybe that was just for masks, but no, I think we also used a cup for some of that sound. We just and it's funny. I'm feeling like I want to say a paper cup versus a cup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would make a bit more. Paper versus plastic would give a different sound.
Yeah, there must have been a choice of them, like a whole lined up of all these different. I can't remember because I didn't have to use those very often. My characters did not use them very often, but I remember something like that. Yeah,
the older guard, like the Fawn family, being involved in all the old like LA Hero stuff. So Orgus, Macross, a lot of the stuff in space.
Yes,
they'd have to use all that.
Yeah,
and then it would
definitely.
But then they tell me, once we got a pickle, like the placement of the pickle, Kevin would be like, "Now hold it there."
Yes,
so you couldn't lose the pickle.
Exactly. You could not move. Couldn't move at all. You just had to do it all from just one spot.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's fun. That's fun stuff.
It's
I love it.
I'm trying my best to honor those stuff. I don't use. I try to use as many manual tools as I can. I have an actual external mixer that I mix myself. I do all my own editing. I don't use any separate. Oh, there's this tool, this software that can find all of your ums and the and.
Very good of you.
I have to listen to however long my footage is, and then try to find them. And if I miss one, it kicks me later. But I'm like, I get better over time.
This is great, Aramis. It reminds me of, I grew up with the days of, like we said, of filmmaking. And I'll just digress for a second on that note that you just said, though. And that is when my father also worked with my uncle. His he's a great uncle. But he was an editor, George Nicholson. And he worked on a moviola and a Motorola. What the hell is it called? Moviola. Oh, geez. What is it? It's basically the film, 35 millimeter film going through the projector, but then it would come out as an editor and it would come out and you'd be able to roll it across and split it and then tape it together where you wanted the cut. And that's how they were doing it back then. Well, when it switched to digital, it drove my uncle crazy because he said that's the whole thing of being able to be so precise like that, but to have to cut it, there's this sort of this feeling of like I don't know. He was describing it, and I go, so that was the beginning of the digital age that he had to transfer into, and he couldn't stand it. Could not stand it. He wanted to go back, and I thought how wonderful it would be for people to go back to the moviola.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
There's a funness to it. To kind of continue the digression just a little bit, I'm a programmer. I code.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm,
I do
mm-hmm.
things, a little bit old. Now they're considered old school. Go back 10 years, they were considered the standard.
Right.
But I don't like the new tools. I don't like the
No.
new,
Right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't like the new techniques. I don't like, my only word on this. I don't like the the term vibe
Yeah.
coding. It's like
Right. Okay.
when you
Yeah.
don't know what's being written and you're just accepting it. Just in general, it's like, no, I need to know every single line that I'm writing. It's like writing a book or writing a
Mm-hmm.
script.
Mm-hmm.
I know where everything's at, and it's handcrafted. That is something that I always, try to support in any industry. Is I'll take
It's interesting. Sorry, I'm sorry. I
You're
didn't
all
mean to
good.
interrupt.
You're good.
But what I was thinking is that I, during the very beginning stages, it was having to sync really well, and a little slipping might fix it. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't slippable and fixable that way, you had to do it over again, the loop.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was the joy of being able to master that. And a lot of times on first take, and the sync, to me, I wanted it to be impeccable,
Yeah.
Okay, so then you flash forward, and I was away from anime for a little bit because I went into TV series and movies and union work, more,
Yeah.
full day union work. But then when I was invited back into a studio that had, of course, high techy everything,
Yeah.
and I something and it wouldn't be in sync, I go, oh, I can do that again. And they said, that's okay, you don't have to. And they're sitting there doing their little and fixing it and stretching and doing all this stuff and mastering it without me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this feels really weird to me. And then they go, well, you don't have to do that, Leah, because we'll get that later. You don't have to do that. I'm like, okay, this is so not fun.
It's not only
I'm
not fun, but then you're
not enjoying this anymore. Yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah.
it takes the soul out of it, and then you have a bunch of, like, for example, if it wasn't you that went to the booth but a newer actor, they give one or two takes and then it's all fixed in post. Well, how is that actor supposed to learn?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
aren't. You're losing
They are.
almost this
Yeah.
junior level, like, rite of passage just to make
Yes,
things quicker.
and an actor will. I remember being in a situation where the actor would go, "Oh, sorry about that, but you can fix it, right?" Like they wouldn't do a good job. They go, "But you can fix it, right?" And then they go, "Yeah, we'll fix it in post, so to speak, or we'll fix it." And I'm like, that to me, I was not trained to do that. And the skill set alone to walk away as an actor who didn't necessarily grow up learning dubbing, but I became a dubber for various scenarios and then into anime. That was half of the joy, was being able to dub and sync.
Yeah.
That made it joyful. If I otherwise you're just sort of quasi just saying lines. Obviously you got to have something behind the line, but it was interesting. The skill set changed.
It
Skill set really
did.
changed.
It did.
Yeah.
My hope is that kind of like how, the vinyl industry kind of came back a bit, and the cassettes. I'm hoping that even if it just takes one or two people to kind of circle things back around and be like, hey, let's
Hmm.
try
Hmm.
things the older methods and see how it turns out.
Right.
Because it's the way I'm trying to do this project is like that. If I mess up, I do another take. I don't fix
Right.
it in post, because
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have to get better as a speaker.
Hmm.
I'll call myself a director and a writer, more in line of like Kevin, but I try to lend my voice to this where I can,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that is, I'm trying to breathe life into it the
Right.
best that I can.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
yeah.
Good. Very nice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
What else, Aramis? Tell me what else, or anything else you'd like to know, or
uh,
have we
uh,
touched it all?
no, trust me, like, you'd think that, but then there's, as you said, well, did you know about this? Did you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
about the
Right.
Kevin's Angels? Did you know about It's like,
Right.
no, I did not.
Yeah. The little
Fascinating.
things. The
It's
little
it.
things.
Well, it's how
Yeah.
this is supposed to be. It's stitched together stories.
Hmm.
Kevin was a very private individual, and he liked it like that, or he purposefully was private.
Hmm.
Very,
Did
very.
you ever come into LA at all and go to the studio that we worked at? Have you been there?
No, I have not.
Magnitude 8?
I have not.
Okay.
I know isn't it called like Laurel Studios now or something?
Yeah, well, what it was Magnitude 8 slash Laurel Studios.
Okay.
Because the Laurel Studios is where they rented out,
Yeah.
the green screen and the various other
Yeah.
sets and props and whatever. But then you have Magnitude 8 where we did the recording
Yeah. I'm
of
trying.
have it all the anime.
I know that's one of the things I'm like for sure going to do before I, while I'm collecting footage and audio for the documentary is I want to get, exterior shots of, I know Mag 8's still there. I know Mary
Hmm.
Claypool still works there, but it's no longer
Hmm.
Mag 8. Getting
No, it's
exterior
Laurel
shots of
Studios.
that,
Yeah. Hmm.
getting, I found an address finally for Books Nippon, just
Hmm.
important places
Yeah, cool.
that
Cool.
for this. But I would have loved to, because I'd hear, stories, there was, whenever it was all, up, when it was in its glory days, you had like pinball machines in the lobby.
Yeah,
And
pinball and pool table and
oh yeah,
a lot of fun things to do.
yeah, that,
Yeah, it was home. It was a second home for most of us,
yeah,
And when people came in, actors who were part of the old crew or steady crew, they'd
yeah.
come in, hang out on the couches, and we just all shoot the breeze, tell stories, and laugh a lot, and then we go in and do the job.
And
Um,
that is, I think that sums up the energy that I want this whole project to like
hmm.
exude is, laughing and fun and stories, and then but make sure
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
everything that I want to convey gets out there.
Right,
Like
right.
it's the I think the term I always use is I want by the end of it a ear to ear grin.
Well, let me tell you, you want ear to ear grin. Did you say that you have interviewed Joe Ramirza or you
So
haven't? I can't remember
so
what you said.
Joe was one of the first people I talked to. Like he was one of the first people I got in
But
touch
not
with.
interviewed, right?
Not I
Inter
and I wanted to, and I know he's probably open to it, but I think I even told him I was like I want to get better as a as a oh hey buddy.
Oh, there's your little kid.
Yeah. Hey, you're gonna be an episode. Here, I'm coming, buddy. But no, I wanted to get better. I wanted to save Joe, and like for me, I might in the next few episodes interview him
Joe
if
is
he's.
really the guy who knows Kevin probably more than
Uh,
anybody else in the world of anime. That's for
yeah,
sure, I would
yeah.
imagine. Yeah,
There's
side by side working like they did, for sure.
Joe. I think the only other person Robert Napton was one of his best friends as well. But
Hmm.
Joe, as I said, I think I'm definitely more comfortable with if he's open for an interview, like sitting down and doing this, and
Hmm.
getting the footage that I need for both the podcast and the documentary.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just be curious to see what you get from Joe, and if
Yeah.
literally after Joe you feel what is even missing. You know what I mean? Like
You'd
yeah,
be
I mean, because the
surprised.
story and humor is there like nobody's
Uh,
business.
you'd be surprised. Like there are little things. Like I hear little stories from
Hmm.
people who may not have worked a lot with Kevin, like you and Joe. But it's interesting hearing, how he acted with like the people he was always around, and then
Hmm.
like one-off stories, like just as I'll
Yeah.
spitball one, like Yuri Lowenthal. His memory was more of like, oh, me and Kevin would talk sci-fi because he was a big lover of sci-fi.
Yes. Yes.
Or like
Yeah.
Carrie Savage, where she wanted to work with Kevin, had sent her resume, heard nothing for like 6 months, and then she met like Kevin, and then met at one point down the line, and Kevin's like, oh, I would love to work with you. And she's
Hmm.
over here like, well, I sent you my resume. Where'd that go? But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's little things like that where I'm like, and it's incredible. But
Hmm.
I know Joe he's told me a few stories, and he's provided me a few like photos and stuff like that, which are on the memorial page that I built.
Hmm.
But I would love to see, I know he has way more. I know he has way more than what he
Oh
told
yeah, I
me,
would think so.
but
Well, over time, we'll stay in touch, because I might have, excuse me, if not pictures, video of something or another of
yeah.
magnitude 8 stuff.
Oh yeah.
That may or may not be. I did not. It wasn't like I was snapping pictures, because we didn't have our phones back then doing
Yeah.
that. Particularly. But later on I went back to magnitude 8 for something, and I don't remember what it was. And Joe was there, and we we pretended like we went into the refrigerator booth. It was because it was being torn down. It was being gutted.
Oh,
So it was the
that's sad.
gutting of magnitude 8. And before anything was truly gutted yet, we sort of did a mock version of my doing the Nanami characters thing that was really struck both Kevin and Joe and myself. Well, I didn't think about it, because I just did it. It was one word, and Nanami says, yeah, YEAH.
Yeah.
That was the only thing on the loop. And they set it up for me to hear. I could actually hear the characters before at that particular time. And I
Yeah.
responded as Nanami, and there was silence after I said, yeah. And that was all I did. And when I didn't hear anything, I go, hello, you guys. And I because you can't hear them. They didn't
Yeah.
have the talk back button down. And I opened up the refrigerator door. There they were, hysterical. I mean, to see Kevin laughing so hard he can't talk, and Joe hysterical, and I'm like looking at him going, I don't know what the hell they were laughing at. I just said, yeah, that was all I did. And apparently it matched so brilliantly to the situation. They had no clue. When Kevin was writing the script, he had no clue that that's the way it was going to be delivered, or had any particular, preconceived notion of the way it should be delivered. But apparently it was so spot on and so brilliant that it became the ongoing thing, where I'd come in to the day and Joe would pass me in the hall and he'd go, yeah, but as Joe, he couldn't quite reach the pitch, you go, yeah, and then Kevin would do the same. And it became our joke amongst each other. And so when we were there during the gutting, session or whatever, I went into the booth, and he pretended like he was recording me, and I said, yeah, that was it. So if you ever see El Hazard and you hear that, you'll know that that's the story behind that,
That's
So,
awesome.
anyway,
I'll mention.
it's really fun.
But when was Mag 8 gutted? I knew it was gutted, but I never, I haven't had the
I don't
chance.
know the exact year, but it was it was. Oh God, that's a good question. I have no idea.
My timing.
It feels like it was in the past 8 years, 8 years, maybe within the past 8 years.
Would it have been after Kevin passed away, I assume?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
very much so. Yeah.
Post 2014. I can always ask Mary Claypool about it.
I just can't remember if it's before I left LA, because I live up north in California. I don't know if it was before or when I came down and I happened to visit and they were doing it, and I was lucky to be a part of that. It feels like it was before I left, which would have been 10 years ago, something like that.
So
But
2016.
you let me know. Will you just text me how many years it was?
Yeah,
Okay, and when it was? Okay.
Of course.
Okay. I'm curious now.
No, of course. God, now I'm looking at some of those. Hey, buddy, again. You're going to be in this episode of Lunch, aren't you? He's just coming to say hi to me, my little man.
What's his name?
Clive.
Clive. Oh my God, what a great name.
Mm-hmm.
Clive. I never hear anybody named Clive. That's great.
Hey,
I haven't heard that name. Where does it come from, Clive?
It's from a video game. I got away with it, and my wife, my wife was like, "You can't name a kid from a video game character," and I'm like, "Well, I want this one." So.
I love it, Clive. It is so not a name today.
It isn't.
Who do you know named Clive other than an anime character? I don't know any Clives except for on television or the movies or something.
Oh yeah.
Fabulous.
Or I think if you go to like Europe, you'll run into a few. But in the
what's his full name? How does it run? Does he have a middle name?
He does. Peter.
Yeah.
So
Clive Peter
Babcock. Yeah, Clive Peter Babcock.
Clive Peter Babcock. I love it.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
That's great. He's a sweetheart, and he's goofy, and he's wild child, and just his smile makes everything worth it.
It's cool.
It
That's
does.
great.
It does.
That's great.
But yeah,
Good, good,
I'll let you
good.
know on that. Here's more of a specific one. I said this one I'm not expecting an answer, but you were one of the people in the photo, so I figured I'd ask anyway. The Time magazine photo, 96.
You mean where we're all pretending like we're doing a loop
Oh yeah. Well,
with
there's
Sorge and Joe
it's Sarge, Joe, and
and
then
Kevin?
and Kevin.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Yeah. Because I've been funny. Oh, go ahead.
Gathering of we were celebrating something. We were there celebrating something. Does it say what it's from? It says we
So
were celebrating
it
something
was
at
it
the
was for
studio.
Time magazine is what they used the photo for,
Yeah.
and the actual Japanese that they used, it was just it didn't it. I'd have to retranslate it.
Oh, that's right. It was a Japanese Time magazine. It was a
Yes.
Japanese version. Okay, so we were asked to come there, and then all of a sudden, it was impromptu. It was not planned. We literally said, "Come on over here and just everybody be together and emulate that photo, and just do it." And then we
Yeah.
just did it. I mean, we didn't really, there wasn't much thought behind it. And to tell you the truth, I can't stand it because of that. I mean, I think it's just silly. But I'm much more of a truest, true, whatever you call that,
Purist.
purist. Thank you. So my feeling was, I would much rather see a candid shot of us working.
Oh yeah.
I get that's what it was, and we were just being silly, and that's fine. But so consequently, I can't look at it and appreciate it
Yeah.
as much as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that was. It was very spontaneous and just sort of do this, and that was that. Yeah.
That's fair. I do appreciate y'all recreating the shot as memorial with a little like photo picture of Kevin you're holding. That was
Right.
really special.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just our being as about as silly as we could be, and Kevin would have loved it too that way.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That
I,
he would appreciate that. Yeah.
I like it. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course we said it too. They go, "What are we doing this for? Kevin's not here." You know what I mean? Like that was part of our like,
Yeah.
"Oh, but Kevin's not here."
Yeah.
So, but
Wow.
yeah, very silly. Very silly.
I think one quote I really like and kind of good like not metaphor for this project, but I forget the term. I took writing. I swear, is if somebody is never truly gone as long as they're remembered.
Oh God, yes.
So.
And spoken about too,
Oh yeah.
A lot of people always are like, when somebody goes, they start talking about him, and I feel like there's a resentment or there's a nervousness or uncomfortableness from other people. It's like, oh my God, they're just never going to stop talking about him. But that's not the case. When something comes up, I love hearing stories. I've always told my friends that when someone goes, I said, I'd like to hear a story about your father or your mother or whatever like that. And they always look at me like, really? But yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Oh yeah.
Keeping them alive in that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Kevin's stories are great too. Like I said, my memory is not as good. And boy, if I had a good memory, you would hear so many fabulous things, I'm sure.
You'd be surprised the stories you told me now though. Like you weren't singing this tune, last week. You're like, I don't have much, but then the stories you've given me thus far have been amazing.
Okay,
And
good.
amazing,
I'm
if
so
you
glad.
will.
Yes, of course.